I haven't got any notes with me, so it was difficult to speak from my mind. At least 10 questions. Wiesław Żynowski from Krakow. Your Excellency, what is the political role for you to be played in Poland? Are you planning any of this? I want to continue to provoke things and initiate. There's someone who really annoys others and teases others and encourages. I really want to have my contribution to constructing things. I disagree with what we have in place today. It's okay, but it is a continuation. Instead, we need a totally new era, a totally new start. We should really have like 20 politicians put on a hot air balloon, take them up into the air and make them look at Europe. You know, some have some have the seaside, others have mountains, some have good soil, others have bad soil, but you are all equally essential. So we need to just use computers and how to find the answers, not by trying to overdo the others, but plan it all together, assisted by computers, how we can all contribute to our benefit. For example, quite shortly, we will inevitably have to admit Ukraine into the European structures. Do you know what will happen if we admit them? Polish agriculture will totally collapse. The French one will collapse too. Half of the German agriculture will collapse too, because Lord has given such good soil to Ukraine that our fertilizer and chemicals that go in soil will not rival with the food with their produce. You know, we consume so many chemicals that there is a halo glaring over my head. That's why my wife and the family will just force me to be buying Ukrainian produce. But unless we prepare for it, we will pay a high price. On the other hand, we have to say, dear Ukraine, we love you dearly, and we are going to buy all the food you produce. But remember, you must not produce and manufacture any industrial things, machinery, or even pens. We will focus on manufacturing those, and then we will purchase your food. This will work to the advantage of yours and ours. So this is the attitude we need to take. This is the challenge, actually, how to reorientate their economy and our economy. So this is the challenge our generation faces. And of course, there is one more question that we need to realize. Have we already learned enough with the bloodshed that it is inevitable to integrate? Or do we still need some more bloodshed, some more bruises to realize that this is inevitable logics of our development? With the assumption that every country, every individual is absolutely essential so that they can benefit to our well-being. It is possible as long as we want to do it. I have a question to you, Mr. President. Two questions, actually. The first question is, how do you foresee the the development of IT in Poland? The society is growing old. Of course, we can think of people becoming old age and handicapped. Perhaps some technology can serve them with robots and things like that. Robots from the military are produced, so that's an option. Let me respond first of all. I don't think I can assist you in this respect, in this question. I am 70, so I can't invent anything new. But I am not that catastrophic about the future. Instead, we have to think over and over, where are you rushing? Replace the robots, replace the things that you do by robots. We had to rush when there was fighting, when we were threatened by our neighbors, then we really had to rush. But now, when we are eliminating borders, when we do not destroy, for example, Poland every 20 years that we used to do before. We can really focus on other things. And we can really focus on what is needed, the assistance to the elderly, the new technologies, because we're not really wasting our energy or our money on unnecessary things like fighting against one another. The financial crisis, for example, what is it? It is really the fact that we did not really anticipate the developments. Instead, today, can't we foresee how many fridges or cars will we need to manufacture for the future? In the past, we couldn't do that because we always wanted to outdo the others. And we've had crisis after another. The financial crisis instead told us that we have to have a responsible financial system. You know, we can't have a system when 3 Americans fought it and the whole system collapsed. So we can see the issues that require a global, wise, sensible approach, logical approach. I don't want to create one state, but a global approach to certain issues. So I'm cautious, you know, we need to go mechanizing and SED into the computer, whereas we can enjoy ourselves while this is accomplished. Technology will get advanced that much. Of course, you can't really put robots in every situation, but that is not a challenge. When we no longer fight, destroy, and set on fire things, we will find resources for taking care of the elderly. And the second question, how what do you think about our national legacy, for example, the land on the seashore, or our national career, that is the airlines selling out? Well, if you remember what I said, there certain things have to remain national, others can be sold, and that's where I had the idea, the concept of 100 million given to everyone, but nobody listened to me then. You know what is the worst thing? If you hide your treasures underground, nobody takes advantage of it. You know, if you cannot find job here, travels elsewhere where you can get a job and pay the tax instead of holding it to yourself and not allowing anyone to benefit from it. You know, in the old era, a patriot was the one who would fight the Soviet, for example, because our grandfather had been killed by the Soviet or the German. Now it's the other way around. Love the Soviet, love the German, do business with them. This is the enormous change that was started up by our generation. Of course, you mentioned national heritage and land being sold to foreigners. But, you know, now we are transferring from the attitude of one country into a country of Europe. But you know what my concept was? To create as quickly as possible the United States of Europe, all the member states, and then federate it with the United States of the United States of America. And only then try to approach China at the negotiating table. And unless we do that, the Chinese will have a majority to pass the vote to integrate Europe with China, and we will end up in China. So and globalization is impossible without China, and we shall never do it unless we continue hiding our treasures hidden in underground, you know, making sure I won't give it to anyone. Yes, this was the way to behave in the old era. Whereas our era is different. We have to open up. We have to launch things. If we can't do business here, we have to do it elsewhere to contribute to our general well-being. Thank you very much. So let me just conclude if there are no more questions. Ladies and gentlemen, I really wanted to share as much of general concepts with you as I could. You know, you specialists in many issues, continue doing whatever you consider to be the just thing to be doing, but bear in mind the fact that we are a very special generation. We have witnessed the beginning of a new century, of a new millennium, but truly speaking, we are witnessing of a beginning of a new era. Out of the era of territory and revolutions and wars, we have opened up the era of peace, progress with no borders. And we can see this clearly on the example of Europe. I often illustrate it with the following example. My father died actually during the Second World War. And if I had a chance to speak to him today and say, you know, Dad, you fought and died, but look what we have in Europe now. There are no Germans guarding the border between Poland and Germany. Do you realize that he would die of a heart attack for the second time before I finished my sentence? It would be so unthinkable to him. But of course, those borders left us with great disproportions in our life standards. We have different fiscal systems, different healthcare systems, social welfare systems. So how to integrate with so many differences? Of course, we cannot do it overnight, but we have to focus on identifying a roadmap. What we can do, let's say, in this year, what we can do in 2 years' time once we can afford it. And this can go on only with concessions of one concessing to the other. So these are the challenges for integration today and continentalization today, but globalization tomorrow. So don't let me hear you say, oh, they can do without me, oh, my vote doesn't count. But tomorrow your children or grandchildren or great-grandchildren might say, oh, listen, Dad, listen, Granddad, you sounded such a macho at home, you know. And what instead did you do? Why didn't you take part in the election? You elected some twins at one point. Maybe you could elect some quintuplets the next time. Oh, you may say, oh, today it is Wałęsa's fault. It's the fault of a revolution. But our kids tomorrow, having computers, will calculate who really is to be blamed for it. Remember, we are faced with the greatest opportunity ever for well-being and prosperity, providing we reform certain things a little bit. But before that, of course, we need a debate. We have to listen to different views to be able to form strategies to follow. And today, even if you had a holy man, a prophet, you wouldn't listen to him saying things unless you really have debated them over. So the words, emotions have to be involved, and only then will we find politicians who will put these into ideologies and strategies to be followed. Let us not be scared by the fact that today's politicians cheat on us. But tomorrow, technology will deal with it. Tomorrow, politicians will wear a personal chip recording everything, you know, who they sleep with or what they do. Of course, I, as a voter, am not going to survey you in any kind, but your chip will really record everything you do. If you cheat even then, no one from your family will be able to run in politics for the next 50 years. So if you opt for this left-wing orientation, you know, check whether things are going to develop as Wałęsa said. You will need a police officer controlling every single individual, how they cheat, how they steal, because the technology will be so advanced. But if we raise the individual of conscience and punish for good, punish for bad and award for good, then we will raise an individual of conscience, a leftist conscience, but it will be much cheaper and a much better, much more effective control. We will enjoy well-being and our kids will be grateful to us. So continue along this way, and I can see I have to finish. So thank you very much for your attention.